Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mark with LimoMarketer, and today I'm joined by Joe VanEst with Royal Floridian out of Fort Myers, Florida. Thanks so much for doing this, Joe.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Joe has actually been a client for going on what, 6 months now? 5 months?
About.
Has it been
Mhm.
about that? Yeah. And we got to talking the other day, and he has one of the best stories that I've heard of how someone got into the business. And not only is the story interesting, but really kind of what you can learn from what he did and kind of take his playbook and potentially do something like this in your own market. And so let's start there, Joe. So tell me, what did you do before you got into the limo industry?
I'm a 30-year career pastor, still pastoring today. But that's pretty much I'm a trained pastor, as it were. But by calling, I'm a pastor of small churches. I'm a turnaround guy, and because they're small, they don't pay as well. So consequently, I call them my habit. So I have to do something to support my habit. And in this case, it's working in the executive car world.
Yeah. So, um, I was watching a movie. I forget the name of it, but uh, it was set back 40 years ago where I think a pastor would go into a town and then they would give him a place to live and maybe he would get a small stipend for food. He didn't get much, and I forget. It was a really good movie, actually. It was about baseball. Forget the name of it now, but I'm guessing just being a pastor of a small church, you do sometimes need to do something on the side then to.
Every church I've ever had, I've always had a side hustle that I've done. Um, then we left ministry for a while and I started my own business. I did pressure washing for several years. That led me to the oil fields of West Texas. I worked in the oil fields with explosives as part of the fracking process for 3 years, and then came back into the ministry after that. But
Oh,
yeah, we've done
wow.
everything from building computers and networking to lawn and landscaping to pressure washing, and now the executive car, black car business.
Interesting. And so, take me back because I think when we spoke a week ago, you mentioned you drove tour buses for a little while. And were you in the current in Fort Myers, or you were in Miami? I thought you said.
Well, I was here in Fort Myers. The company that I worked for was based out of Miami. They were trying to
Okay.
get a good footing over here on the Gulf Coast side. But the problem happened once they realized that I had customer service skills. They sucked me over into their Miami division, and I started driving for all of their professional sports teams. So any team that came in to play the Heat or the Lightning or the baseball team down there, uh, I ended up driving tour buses for those professional teams. Therefore, I spent more time in Miami than I did Fort Myers. Doesn't bode
Oh.
well if you're trying to pastor a community.
Sure. I think you mentioned you were only home on Sunday evenings and or
Sunday all
Sundays and
day and Wednesday
Wednesday.
evenings. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. And so, and then you found another gig, right, with Royal Floridian, right?
Yeah. And I had never driven black cars or limos at that time. But they were looking for chauffeurs. And so went through the interview process. They hired me. And but I what I didn't realize is it was um, they were absentee owners. So they were managing from afar. And
Okay.
so here we've got drivers moving around here in the Fort Myers Naples area, and without a lot of oversight, as it were. So that created its own problems. And I started just looking at the problems and figuring out some solutions and suggesting them and carrying through with those suggestions once I talked to the owners. And it didn't take long before the conversation came up about, well, what if we were to sell you this business?
Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of where it came from. And remember, I'm the small church pastor who has to do something to support his habit. So it's not
Yeah.
that I had any money to put into this thing, but I had a lot of sweat equity that I could put up. And
Yeah.
so they became angel investors in that sense, and tremendous people. They've worked hard to build this business to where it's at, and they continue to be a tremendous asset to what I'm continuing on with.
Wow, that's super interesting. And this wasn't your first business though, right? You had the power washing business before?
Yeah, we've had multiple businesses through the years, from little bubblegum machines. We did that for a while to um, building computers back in the early 90s. We've tried our hand at a lot of things and been successful at most of them, failed at some,
Yeah.
just like any business owners.
So, and then Royal Floridian, this company has been in the Fort Myers area for a very long time, right?
30 plus years. They started out as a limousine company, and then the owners saw the transition that was happening from limos to executive cars. And so they made that transition several years ago and continued on from there. So now we run all executive cars. They did have a season where they had buses as well, tour buses and mini buses, but we don't have those currently. Mainly it's sedans, SUVs, and passenger vans.
Got it. And I'm guessing because they were in that city for so long, they've got a pretty large book of business, or you're well known in the city.
We are, but our book of business is really not based around the local clientele. The business has been built upon an affiliate network. So we are an affiliate for major transportation companies from around the world. We
Wow.
have just over 100 contracts with different companies, and the largest in the world. And they call
Yeah.
us when they have clients that are coming into Southwest Florida, or if they're in the Miami area and need to come over to Southwest Florida or Tampa Bay or wherever, Orlando. We travel anywhere our clients ask us to go. And that was the reason that I came to you, Mark, was we wanted to build more of that local clientele out, and we figured that Google would be the best way for us to do that.
Totally. So Royal Floridian in the past wasn't really doing much online marketing. It was getting most of its business from these very large affiliates. Is that
They've never marketed online. They've never advertised.
wow? That's actually
Never.
perfect though, because that's such a huge opportunity, right? Going from, and it was already a decently successful business. I'm guessing COVID probably hit them pretty hard as it did many other operators.
Yeah, I believe at the hype of everything, they had 22 vehicles on the road. And
Wow.
then the financial crisis of 2008 hit them hard. And then COVID was the next one. And when they came out of COVID, we were down to uh, two sedans, two SUVs, and a van. And now we're up to a few more. We're growing. Let's put it that way.
Sure. And I think you mentioned when we spoke a week ago, you're making the operation much more efficient. Um, where they used to farm out a ton of work. Is that right? And
Yeah,
uh,
when there's absentee owners, it's hard to build out relationships with the chauffeurs, with the drivers.
yeah,
And so we have found this year, with me being on location, that we're not burning through the drivers near as quick. Our hiring process is becoming more refined. It's we're hiring the right team members rather than hiring team members. We're not trying to fill a slot anymore. We're trying to build a team. And
yeah,
so that has made a huge difference. Yes, there's still turnover because you get people that want to get into this industry and don't necessarily understand some of the dynamics of the transportation industry. It's not a 9 to 5 job. And so we have some that come and go because of that. And
yeah,
you're going to have your occasional guys, gals, whichever it may be, that are just lazy. And,
yeah.
you know, This job is about the hours you put in. There's no way around it.
Totally. Um, so you had mentioned something to me a week ago, a strategy that you were planning on employing, and that really anyone could. You found some companies that were very small operators for sale on Craigslist, right? Do you want to walk
Yeah,
me
I
through
found
kind of what you were doing there?
just in the Fort Myers, Naples area, I found three operators that were one, two car operations. So the largest one, I believe he had two sedans. No, he had a sedan, a minivan, and a passenger van. And I believe that him and his wife kind of alternated between those three vehicles. But there was him, and then there were two other operators that were single car operators that were getting to that age of retirement, but didn't know what to do with the asset of their business. And
Sure.
so as they were getting to that age of retirement, they probably let it go a little too long before trying to sell. And so they couldn't take a lump sum of money for a business simply because it would affect their social security. And
Ah,
so um, we had to get creative with the ideas. And so as have continued the conversation, we haven't closed any deals with them at this point, but we're nonetheless continuing the conversation.
yeah,
Uh, it's one of those things. One scenario could be that they would come to work for me for a year. And the
yeah,
purpose of that really is to secure their book of business, because the reality is when you transfer a book of business from one company to another, you're going to have loss. So how do
totally.
you
Yep.
minimize the loss? Well, you keep them comfortable, keep the client comfortable with the previous owner. And
Yeah,
so to bring that previous owner on so that they could particularly build that bridge of relationship between them, their clientele, and you as the new owners.
yeah. That's brilliant. I haven't when you told me that, I said I don't think I've heard anyone that has done something like that. I'm curious what really gave you the idea because you weren't even planning on taking over this company that you were working for, right? I mean, they just
No.
came to you.
Yeah, it really wasn't in the cards in my mind, but I'm a business guy. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I've had to do through the years, because I don't have a solid background with having a lot of money, is how to be creative with financing.
Yeah.
And so, man, I've seen some of your interviews, people who have gotten very creative with financing vehicles. I just happen to be pretty good with how to get people to work with you on financing business.
Yeah.
And whether they're big or small, it doesn't matter. You figure if they have a $50,000 book of business, and even if you can translate half of that over to your company, who wouldn't like to increase their business by 25K a year?
Yeah.
That's not bad, especially if you're a smaller operator.
Totally.
Um, but even as a medium-sized operator, I'd be glad to do that.
Oh,
You know, I,
yeah. Are you kidding me?
I'm not going to turn down 25K.
Yeah. I mean, especially with, yeah, because whether you do online marketing, then you need to either learn it yourself or find an agency and you're going to be spending money on that. Why not go and find someone who already has an established client list? Um, Now, I'm curious, how did you, and I don't need like your deal specifically, but generally, is it you agree on a price and then you do, because I know many times there's upfront, something upfront, and then it's paid out over the course of what, maybe 2, 3 years.
Correct.
Um, but for
So when
you,
you're
there's no money down, right?
right, when you're doing deals like this, you're going to take risk, first of all, just as the person selling the business is taking a risk. The other thing is you should expect to pay a premium for the business. So you're not going to get it at necessarily rock bottom prices because they're taking a risk on you and you
Yeah.
have to prove yourself through the process. So there's I look at it that I know I can build something when I have the right tools. And
Yeah.
that's where LimoMarketer is part of their having the right tools. The other side is having the right team members. And so, you could have a bus full of chauffeurs, but you may not have the right chauffeurs on the bus. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty big about making sure that I find the right people, and I'm slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yep.
Fire a lot of people, but I'm not gonna, you know, if you got a toe that's bothering you and there's no hope of it being healed in any way, would you rather live with the pain or get rid of
Yeah.
it and move on? It's that type of thing. So having the right tools, having the right people, I know I can build just about anything as long as I have the knowledge. And be honest with you, with the internet, you can learn about anything. Um, Years ago, after I left the oil field and just as I was moving back towards pastoring, I needed a way to supplement my income. And I came across this whole system of finding old pallets, wooden pallets, and refurbing and selling them. Well, that led me, I found just a giant deal, and I was able to buy concession equipment. I was able to use the concession equipment to where I was able to get to the next level. And that's the way I work a lot of deals in this situation is, you got to stair step into what you want. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily go out and look for a 15 car deal because you're not going to find that. You've got to
Yeah.
start with something that's manageable, 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars, whatever it may be, and be willing to jump in and prove yourself. I'll be honest with you, Mark, I don't make a lot of money, but
Yeah.
I'm building an asset.
No, no. And that's
You know,
what this is all about.
I don't have a mansion for a house. My wife has agreed to live in a very meager way so that we can build our future. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not young. I'll be 54 here in a few weeks, and I'm looking for the end game at this point because I don't want to work the rest of my life. I want to be able to enjoy my kids and my grandkids. So you've got to be willing to take some risk, calculated as it is, and you've got to be willing to pay a little bit more for what you're asking. If you're asking for something for nothing,
Yeah.
you you got to be willing to give something.
I
And so
think
for
you
my deal, Mark, for my
oh,
deal is without getting into the specifics of it, is essentially it's as if I'm paying their salary for several years.
got
Um,
it. Okay.
and they have very little to do with it, and little by little it's a transfer going from them to me.
Got it. Okay. Well, one thing I think this will be a nice retirement you have in the making here, and I'm sure you already know that. Um, so let's say you were someone watching this video right now, and you're like, "Whoa, I would love to do something like that. Why start something from, you know, the ground up? Maybe you have a little experience in the industry, hopefully." Um, what do you think would be the best way to kind of do what you've done? Would you recommend maybe finding the right business that is looking to retire in the next few years and possibly letting them know your intentions and then saying, hey, I'd love to, work for you and, show you what I can do? I'm just wondering what would be the best way for somebody that doesn't have those funds to do something like you did.
Yeah. So that's either that or you start out on the Uber side, which I'm not a huge fan of Uber, I'll be honest with you, but it gets your feet wet into
Yes.
something. And you can definitely build a book of business, regular clientele based on that Uber. Um, LimoMarketer is a good example of I think of that like the Uber. I get clients from LimoMarketer that say, hey, we want to go from point A to point B. Man, since September, it was the 1st of September is when we signed up with LimoMarketer. Since then, I've got a handful of clients that have called me 4, 5, 6 times to
Nice.
do other jobs. And we're not talking little jobs. Sometimes, these are $500, $600, $700 jobs that they're asking for. So it's not like an airport transfer of 170, 200, 225, 250, whatever it may be. These
Yeah.
are higher ticket. And then the other thing that anybody can do is become a broker of these things. So sign up with someone like you, but go out before you sign up with you, go out and find companies that you can farm this work out to.
Yeah.
So I do that with limos. I don't own a limo, and
Yeah.
at this particular juncture, yeah, I'd love to have them, but that's a luxury for me at this point. But
Yeah.
I have lots of relationships that I've started to build and continuing to grow in that world. And so
Yeah.
all I do is pick up the phone and say, actually, they sent me their price list. So now I can quote it out and just make sure the dates are available. I'm doing their sales job for them. But yet
Yeah.
it's marked up. I'm making good money for pushing paper. Anybody can do that. You don't
Yeah.
have to have a car company to do that.
Totally. That's yeah, no, that's brilliant. Yeah, especially yeah, if you have, no experience, yeah, starting with an Uber or Lyft just to kind of get your foot in the door. And, a lot of my clients now, I would say half of them were former Uber and Lyft drivers who many started at Uber, then they did Uber Black. And yeah, what you can do many times is print up some business cards. And
Exactly.
I'm guessing this is against their terms of service. I'm not really sure, but I've never heard of anything bad coming from it. But you can pick up some private clients by doing that. And, and yeah, start building that client list and kind of get your feet wet because yeah, what you did, don't get me wrong, that's awesome, but you also have had quite a bit of experience running businesses, right? This isn't your first rodeo. And the people that are selling you this business, I'm sure they saw that, right? They saw that you stepped up and you knew how to be an operator, right? And it sounds like you made their business more efficient as well. Um, so I'm sure that helped a ton.
And you can't run off of fear. You've got to, I'm coming from the church world, so I would say the word faith, but
Yes.
you've got to operate with an air of confidence in what you're doing. You may not know exactly what you're going to end up with, but
Yeah.
act as though you're going after the moon and back.
Yes.
And when you go in to talk to clients, I sat down with a client about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, brand new resort that just opened up in our area, and sat down with them about us being the coordinator for their major groups that are coming in.
Oh,
And
nice.
do we currently do that? No. Do I have people in my organization that have done that? Yes. So can we do it? Absolutely.
Yeah. Figure it out,
There's a lot
right?
of, it's a lot of buses that I don't have, but that's okay. You build those relationships. It's a lot of black car service that we can do.
Nice.
And I have to farm a lot of it out. And, I- you know, yeah, there's just so much opportunity, Mark. It's crazy. You just have to think creatively, or maybe you're not the most creative thinker. Surround yourself with others that are. Don't be afraid. You know, I surround myself with a lot of people that are different than me philosophically in life. We're not. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. We're just different.
Yeah.
Uh, but they have an edge about them when it comes to business or to the car industry that I'm in right now that says I can learn from them. And so
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to have conversations. I'm not afraid to just straight up call up somebody and say, hey, how did you do that?
Yeah.
I've done that. I've watched a few of your videos where I've actually made contact with the individual and say, how exactly did you do that? That's pretty intriguing.
Yeah. And many times, a lot of people, especially when they were where you are at one point, they love, most people love helping out someone who's hungry, who's actually going to take their advice and go and run with the ball, right?
Yeah.
And implement.
So I'm gonna put a selfish plug in here for you, Mark, because you have people that maybe watch that aren't totally sure about what you do. And I want to encourage you. We spend a pretty good sum of money with you,
Yeah.
but it comes back. I'm doing 5 to 7x every month right now.
Nice.
Um, your endeavors on my behalf have come to equal about 10% of my overall business in 6 months.
Yeah.
Now we're a medium operator. We're not a small operator. So
Yes.
the numbers are bigger.
Yeah.
And you can say that, wow, the efforts of LimoMarketer and the skill set that you have to get us into the right areas on Google, I'm telling you, my phone rings incessantly. Um, and I don't change my numbers for my Google clients. My prices are the same as what my corporate prices are. And
Yeah.
I understand that it's for some people, it's not for others.
Yeah.
But I've
Exactly.
made the decision that I'm not changing my pricing. Um,
Yeah.
I'm proud. I price my work because we drive new vehicles. We have expensive insurance. The cost
Yeah.
of gas is, I think I paid 375 today for gas. Um,
Is that pretty
Everything
high in
is,
Florida for
that's pretty
Florida?
high in Florida.
Okay. Yeah. In California, that's like a deal.
Yeah, no, that's pretty high in Florida.
Okay.
Um, so everything's expensive, and so I don't back down on my price because someone doesn't understand the cost of what they're asking for.
Yeah.
I educate instead. I'm not afraid to shoot
There you
off a
go.
text back and tell them, here's my cost of operation. And usually when I'm done, they may hang up, but within a day, I'm getting a call back saying, "Hey, can we go ahead and book that?" Um,
Yeah.
there's tons of people who are cheaper than me. But the number one thing that you want to ask is, what's your insurance like? You
Yeah.
know, we live in
Totally.
Florida. There's a ton of accidents down here.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're well covered. And I carry some pretty hefty insurance because of it.
I bet. Yeah. I love what you said there. You don't want to be because that's probably one of the most common things I hear is, yeah, these people, they're calling, they're cheap. And what you find is, and I made a video specifically about this,
Yep.
about people comparing to Uber or whatever. Many people just don't know any better. It might be their first time calling to book a service like this. Now, it shouldn't be everyone's like that, but many people do know the cost, but many times it's just educating the client on the differences and kind of the benefits of working with a black car, chauffeured company versus like an Uber Black or Lyft or whatever.
Mhm.
And so I love what you said there. And then, yeah, when you sent me the text saying, we're 10% up, I got that if a brand new client said that to me who had just started in the industry, I'm like, we're doing something wrong. You should be like 100 or 200% up in the first few months, right? But I get it. You're a pretty good size operation already, and so seeing a lift like that, is pretty substantial for a business that's been around for 34 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, our overall business is up 40, well, we're up to almost 47% over last year.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
So, and I added an extra car to it
Yeah.
to try to pick up some. But once again, what I do is I farm out a ton of work that I just can't. I don't have the cars or the people for, but
Yeah.
it gives me the decision making ability 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road to say, okay, it's time to add another car.
Yeah.
It comes back to these relationships. You've got to build relationships. Last night I was supposed to be in Miami at 5 a.m. this morning for a pickup coming back to Fort Myers. And so about 8 o'clock last night, I make a phone call to a relationship, someone that has done some work for me in the past. And I'm like, hey, I've got this pickup at 5 a.m. in Miami at the airport. Would you consider doing it? And they're hungry. They want work. So
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
like, absolutely. But you got to have relationships. You
Yeah.
know, you it's too many times, as me having had small businesses, we're afraid of the competition. When I was in
Mm,
the pressure washing industry, everybody complained about the $99 guy that did pressure washing for $99.
yeah.
And the reality is, it's the same thing in the transportation world.
Yeah.
There's
Every industry,
always,
right?
that's right. There's
Yeah.
always going to be that. But the key is be secure in who you are and
Yeah.
what you offer, and don't worry about that, because that $99 guy is going to make you money eventually as you grow your business beyond what you're able to handle by yourself. And you
Mm,
need to start farming work out to him. So build the relationship, get to know him, know, feel comfortable with his level of quality and the satisfaction measurements that you would put there, so that
yeah.
he will work like you. And then you're going to help him. You're going to build him. Why not take people along with you for a journey?
Totally. It's so much more rewarding as well, right?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, if there's people like that and I'm helping to build their business, they're not taking my clients from me. I'm helping to support them financially by giving them some work. They know very
Exactly.
clearly that if they try to take my clients, they'll never get another job from me.
Yes.
So that's the relationship side. I trust the companies, the guys that I have, the one car guys that I have that do work for me. I trust them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. It's funny you say this because I have, now I've been in the industry 7 years, and it's so common where a lot of operators are worried about all their competition. And it's so funny. I have some newer clients that have all been in the industry only about 6 months. They all came from Uber. They're about 2 hours north of you in Tampa, and it's four guys, and they're all actually clients. Um, and they all send work to each other, and it's almost like they're one company, but not, because each has a vehicle, and
Yep,
they're pretty much all different vehicle types. One has a sedan, I believe. One guy has an SUV, and they're all using each other, and they're all giving each other work and getting work from each other, and it really is, tremendous. So yeah, make those relationships with your local guys, because especially if you're doing any online marketing and you are a one car operator, there are going to be times. I tell new people when they come to me, I want you to have a Google business profile set up, so you have some reviews, right? Some sort of online reputation. And I want to make sure you have some friends or some affiliates, really, that you can farm work out to, because there will be days where it's, where you're slammed, right? And you can't
absolutely.
do an extra job. And that's when, having those friends, affiliates, can come in handy. And then, sometimes they might repay the favor. And I know with these guys in Tampa, many times money's not even really changing hands oftentimes, because they're all giving back and forth to each other
Yeah,
so much. It's kind of like an IOU sort of thing.
it is. And we do a lot of that down here in our market as well, mostly with the bigger companies. We're like the third largest right now in the area. And the contracts that we have, the other two that are bigger than us would absolutely die for. But the guys that are the one car operations, man, we pay them. They do a job, we pay them immediately, absolutely immediately. And I don't get anything. They don't send me work.
Yeah.
They're hungry to do their own, but that's okay. Uh, it's about the relationships, and I'm just big on relationships. I think it's you can't live life without the relationship aspect. The other
Totally.
thing, and the last thing that I would say about the whole business is know your numbers. If you don't know what your cost of operation is, if you can't spit that out because it's in the back of your head like this, uh, you're going to struggle in this industry. You can lose a lot of money real quick if you don't know your numbers. However, you choose to zone out, whether you do it by zip code, whether you do it by mileage, whether you do it by town, you need to know your numbers. Um, you know, Organize yourself with a program or something that will help you to know those numbers quickly.
Yeah.
So you can maneuver quickly when it comes to uh, adding cars, subtracting cars, adding personnel, whatever it is. If you don't know the numbers, I meet a lot of business people that are really good with people,
Yeah.
maybe aren't so good with the numbers. And you need to find someone that you can bring on the journey with you that's really good with the numbers, that's sharp with numbers.
Totally.
Um, Bring along someone, if not directly in your business, in your network of friends, that's sharp on the vision side of things so that you can clarify who you are, what you stand for, and what you're doing. Know those things, not just, yeah, I move people around. Well, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why are you in a business to make money? Well,
Yeah.
if it's just about making money, you're probably not going to be as successful as you should be. You've
Yeah.
got to have a vision for your own life, a plan, a direction. You know, for me, I want to build a legacy. I don't want, I don't, if it's just about building something for my wife and I, probably not interested, because I'm at that age where, okay, I can go make a living a whole lot easier and be able to come home at night and my phone not ring off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But I'm building something that I can hand to, I have one son that works for me. I'm building something that he can enjoy the rest of his life as well. Or if my other son who's in the military ever decided to retire and jump in, it's something that he can do, or that my grandkids can do as they age. You need to have something that's bigger than you. If this is just about making a buck, it's not the right industry for you. There's too
Yeah.
many headaches, there's too much stress, it's hard, and you got to have something bigger than that. So sit down and do a little bit of visioneering yourself. Decide what you're about. Decide what you can do and why you want to do it, and then go for it. Make it happen.
Totally. Wow. I don't think I've had anyone bring that up, but it is so important because it isn't easy, right? Building a successful business, and you will be working more than someone who has a 9 to 5 because you don't clock out, right? And yeah, having some sort of like grander vision is so important. And didn't you mention you have some sort of because I'd love you to at least plug it. You have some sort of charity, was it, when we spoke a
Yeah.
week ago?
So because of my church ministry, I was looking for a way to get my church folks involved in the community more. So I found an organization out of Texas that would lease us a shower trailer. So I've got a 7 stall shower trailer that we provide showers to the homeless. Now,
Oh,
here in our county, Lee County, Florida, we've got about 5,000 homeless people. They're Anytime you see a section of woods, you probably have homeless people living in it down here. And so what we have done is we've got this shower trailer that we provide hot showers. And it's amazing watching the transformation as people go in. They go in, that downcast, that I'm filthy, dirty, and they come
yeah.
out bouncing because they feel different. We also provide food we're just getting ready to open up a food pantry that's specifically for organizations or small family groups that cook for the homeless. They're going to be able to come to our food pantry, and it'd be like a shopping supermarket for them, small version.
Yeah.
But they'll be able to get frozen foods. They'll be able to get canned foods. They'll have some fresh foods that they can make on site for the homeless as well. So, I mean, for me, it's about more than driving cars.
Yeah. No, no, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
the guy that I have alongside of me, and I would call him my partner by far on the shower trailer and on the food side, he has a business that does security cameras up in Chicago, Michigan, and now coming down here to Florida. So that this is what he's chosen to do as well with his business life is he invests into Hope Ambassadors, which is the name of the organization that him and I started together.
oh, that is
So
so cool. And yeah, more than just you and your wife and retirement. Don't get me wrong, that's important, but
it is.
like on those hard days where, you put in, 12 hours or whatever, that's the kind of thing that keeps you going, right? Is that vision and knowing that you're helping others, because look, at the end of the day, that's really what, uh, from what I've heard, that's really what provides life satisfaction, right? And Maslow's
It is.
hierarchy of needs, that's really probably the top, right? Um,
So if you remember back just in the beginning of our conversation, I talked about the pallets and going in from going building pallets, selling them, and then buying concession equipment. Well, I've held on to that concession equipment. I have a 30-foot trailer that's full of everything from commercial smokers to lemonade squeezing machines to kettle corn, hot dog carts. I've got all this stuff. And so, after the hurricane last year, which I talked to you the night before the hurricane, I don't know if you remember
no,
that.
I remember that. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I had that conversation. I went home from the church that night and the hurricane hit. And I ended up back in the church sheltering people. But what we did after the hurricane is we took those resources and we went out to the different communities within the city. So a lot of mobile home communities that got utterly destroyed. And we
Yeah.
provided hot dogs. We provided kettle corn. That was a
Oh,
huge hit because it's
oh,
it's savory and sweet,
I love kettle corn.
Yeah, but that's the type of stuff that we do that we got to fund it somehow, and
Totally.
it's still coming out of my pocket one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my business pays me, and I choose to use some of it for that purpose to see a smile on somebody else's face. So
Totally.
yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, hey, Joe, this has like been awesome. Thanks so much for doing this. Like, learned a lot, and I'm sure anyone who watches this, it's pretty inspirational what you have going down there. And so,
Well, thank you, Mark. We appreciate the opportunity, and um, I'm always willing to talk to someone. Uh, as I tell my church folks, I'm never too busy. I'll always make time for people because I like people. I
awesome.
is one of them.
Joe, thanks again. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Mark.